My name is Christopher Bagalia. I am an accountant by profession. I've been practicing accounting now for the last decade or so, straight out of uni. I was with Deloitte for some time before going to Kutubu in the Southern Highlands and performing roles up there within the accounting field. I soon left there to pursue my interest in IT. So the last 5 years or so I've dedicated to just getting out there and getting into what I really love doing the best, which is information technology and developing solutions for different problems that we have in the country. So right now, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just developing solutions, platforms, anything to address some of the key or the fundamental issues surrounding things like financial inclusion, financial literacy, and things like that. Well, Invest in Me was developed out of my own struggle as an entrepreneur. I found that during my journey, despite having a lot of creative ideas and having the skills and the talent to actually develop solutions that meant something in the community, one of the greatest issues I faced was financing and capital, just equity to get started. So it took me a while to get to this juncture. I've actually had to go to accounting and then come back just to sustain myself throughout the whole entrepreneur process, maintaining different streams of income. So having gone through that journey, I realized that, funding was a major issue. And then I started looking at ways to bring finances into my business or into any other business. So after doing a little bit of research and developing technology such as blockchains and cryptocurrencies, I realized that I think maybe what we need is some form of a platform that allows users to get on board, which doesn't require too many requirements like the bank, having things like equity or an ID number, things like that. Something very basic where a typical Papua New Guinean can just log in, create an account, run a campaign, showcase to the world what they have to offer as a person, as an institution, as an NGO, as a corporate institution, especially during this time with COVID-19. A lot of businesses have been suffering. They've suffered massive losses because they've had to cut back on a lot of expenditure. So having that in mind, we developed Invest in Me. So essentially what the platform allows people to do is get on board and start running campaigns for various causes. An example would be if you have a church and you need to raise funding to construct a building. A church can get on board, register as a church, and simply run a campaign. Put a little bit of a story there about what you do, how it touches the lives of people, and then put a goal, set a goal, and then there you have it. You have a campaign. You can simply run that campaign. We've also built in social media, a social share capabilities, so you can share your campaigns on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, for example, and then you can get your message to a wider group of people. So your chances of being funded or being backed for a particular project, your chances are much higher. So we give that opportunity, and it's free for anyone to get on board. So that's the beauty about it all. There's no requirements and it's all free. Well, crowdfunding, how I got into the crowdfunding space is through my association with things like blockchain and cryptocurrency. That's where I first grasped the idea of crowdfunding. Essentially what crowdfunding is getting people from all walks of life to put funding in for a specific cause. Now I'll give you this analogy to make it a bit clearer. So if you're, for example, trying to run a community outreach for rugby, for example, which is what we'll be doing on our platform, which is one of the campaigns we'll be running. Now, if you go and you ask a corporate organization to fork you out, say, 30,000 kina. For most organizations during this time, that amount is very dear, and they'd have to dig deep to give you that money. But say, if you get your campaign out there and 30,000 people put $1 each, so they don't lose out much from their wallets, but you achieve your goal, and you can do a lot with that money. So that's a classic example of how crowdfunding works. With our platform, we've built in an incentivized system. So take, for example, a coffee grower in the Highlands. They're able to build in an incentivized or reward system wherein a person who donates over, say, 1,000 kina towards raising funds to bring a coffee packaging machine. Anyone that donates over 1,000 kina from the first production of that coffee from that machine, they get 5 boxes of the coffee in that package. So it's an incentivized reward system. So the backers or the people giving the donation, they also benefit from crowdfunding to a certain extent as well. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. So that's more like a donation backup-based equity kind of funding where people contribute for a certain cause. Another form of crowdfunding is investment-based, meaning investment portfolio based. So, for example, if a company decided to run a campaign to fund a startup, for example, an incentive for backers would be that when they do contribute over a certain amount, they have stake in that company. So that's a different form of crowdfunding. As you said, there's 4 different types, but the one that we'll be focusing on predominantly is the one which is equity-based or donation or backup-based. Well, with crowdfunding, you can basically fundraise for pretty much anything. You're not limited to what you can raise funding for. You can raise funding for things like school fees, community projects. NGOs can get on board and run projects for the various programs that they're running for the community. Churches, rugby teams. And the reason why I got into this space initially was because at the beginning of the year, I lost my mom to cancer. And it was a very challenging time for us because we firstly didn't know what cancer was and we didn't know how to deal with it. And thirdly, we didn't have the funds. We were strapped of cash at that time to raise the amount of money to take mom to find treatment abroad. So from that experience, when I put my mom down, I made a promise to her and I said, no other Papua New Guinean woman or girl is going to die from cancer. No, not on my watch. So I went ahead and I developed a solution. And I was fortunate enough to meet other people with that same mindset. So we've come together and formed what is now called Invest in Me, to provide that avenue to people to come on board and raise funding when they need it the most, without all the requirements, without any political interference, without any this or that. It's just you run a campaign and then you benefit, you reap the full benefit of that campaign. And it's transparent in the sense that there's a monitor or bar, a status bar that monitors the amount of donations you collect until your goal is reached. So everyone is watching and everyone can see how much you've raised, and they're able to, and people who are actually running campaigns can actually vet that they are receiving the donations that they've put the campaigns out for. Absolutely. Well, we have a terms of service, and that is very stringent. What that contains is just an outlining campaigns that are not allowed to be run on the platform itself. Things like gambling or promoting products that haven't been scientifically proven, or anything offensive or violent of a violent nature. So there are guidelines there. So those are what we'll be using to assess different campaigns that come on board the platform. With the crowdfunding platform, as I said, it's very user-friendly. And I'll sum it up in this. The beauty of the platform itself, and the reason why I'm drawn to it and why I'm very close to the platform, is because personally I have a connection to it with my own experiences as an entrepreneur, as someone who's lost someone from a disease which we couldn't treat in the country. Apart from that, the potential it has to reach Papua New Guinea. If you think about it right now, especially during this time, where we're faced with a lot of socio-economic problems. And COVID, of course, is ever present now, the new normal. And people are finding it tough to put food on the table. And something like this will go a long way in getting engagement from the communities, and at the same time bringing about benefit to everybody across the board. And it's not limited to just the elites or the middle class. So as long as you are able to use a mobile phone, you can run your own campaign and you can start raising money for your own causes and start benefiting directly from the platform.